Hello and welcome to my virtual lesson presented through Zoom. And you can see that we have two students inside my classroom ready to learn all about Zoom cloud recordings. So earlier this year, we talked about how to record a Zoom lesson directly onto your computer, uploading it to a site like Schoology or YouTube, and then making that available for later viewing. So if the method that we shared earlier in the year has worked for you, then please, by all means, continue it. But I'm going to share a different method that you might want to try that we think offers a lot of really nice advantages, and that's called a Zoom cloud recording. So this will be a two-part video series, and in part one, you'll learn how to configure your Zoom recording settings. You'll also learn how to spotlight your video. And finally, we'll talk about the difference between active view and gallery view. So let's get started. You've probably noticed this in the past. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, when you click record, you have the option not only to record to the computer, but also to record to the cloud. This is the method that we'll be talking about today. When you create a Zoom cloud recording, your video lesson is processed through Zoom, and then in just a few minutes, Zoom creates its own link that you can share with students in your Schoology course for later viewing of the lesson. But the first thing that you'll want to do is configure your settings for your Zoom cloud recordings. So to do that, you want to make sure that you log into Zoom. Once you're logged into Zoom, you'll want to choose Settings on the left-hand side, and then the middle column that says Recording. With a local recording, you'll notice that there's just one option, but under cloud recording, you have many options for how you want to configure your video lesson. So here are the options for cloud recording. What I'm going to suggest is checking this box on that says Record Active Speaker with Shared Screen. But you'll notice that at the bottom, you can also record 3 different videos if you'd like: the active speaker, the gallery view, or the shared screen. But again, for this one, I'm just going to choose active speaker with shared screen. Some of the other options that you may want to check on is the option to add a timestamp for the recording, and some things that you'll likely want to check off are these 2 options in the middle: display participants' names in the recording and record the thumbnails. So if you recorded a lesson and it showed students on the screen, by checking these boxes off, this will ensure that Zoom Cloud Recording will only show the active speaker and it will only show the shared screen. Some other options that you can check on if you want to bring this into an editor, check this box. And then finally, an audio transcript. This is going to be something that I think will be helpful for your students once your video is processed. Once you're finished, click Save. Now you'll notice at the bottom, my recording has already started. But when you first start recording, you just click on the record button, make sure that you check on Record to the Cloud, and the settings that you have just saved will then be applied to your recordings moving forward. So let's take a second to talk a little bit about how Zoom works. When you typically use a Zoom recording, it will record the active speaker. That means the person in your lesson who is speaking. So right now in my lesson, I'm being recorded because I am the active speaker. If I asked a question to Yoda, and Yoda talked, then you would see this yellow box around Yoda's name, and he would be the active speaker. How it would work is you would see me, and then you would see Yoda, and then you would see whoever the active speaker is. So when we're creating a recording to watch later on and we don't want students to be on who are speaking, one of the things you can do is spotlight your video. When you spotlight a participant, Zoom will record the video from just that one person, no one else, even when others are the active speaker. So during your lesson, you'll want to make yourself, the teacher, the spotlight speaker. And you can do this by going to your thumbnail, right-clicking, and choosing Spotlight Video. What that will do is ensure that your video will always be recorded even if you are not the active speaker. This will allow thumbnails of students not to appear in the final video. If you remember, we also checked that option off in our cloud recording settings. Here's how the Spotlight speaker looks in the different view settings of Zoom. This is the speaker view with me in the middle. Thumbnails of students will be found at the top. There's also the option to switch from speaker view to gallery view. So you can switch between both of these 2 views, and you will notice that as I switch from one to the other, the person who is the spotlight speaker will always be highlighted and will always be recorded, even when you share your screen. So let's recap. In part 1, we configured our recording settings so students won't be featured in our video. We also selected ourselves, the teacher, as the spotlight video. And we explored how to toggle between the speaker view and the gallery view. In part 2, learn where to find the recorded Zoom lesson and how to share it with students.